Hey guys, it's Seth, and in this video, I'm talking with Christopher, who skipped college and is now making $68,000 a year with no college degree. Now, you know, if you've watched this channel for a while, I am a huge advocate of skipping college, but because it has become one of the biggest problems in America and in the world today. The high cost of college and the low return on investment in terms of the fact that so many college graduates come out of school with no marketable skills, no idea what to do for a career, and they're deeply, deeply in debt. And I was talking with Christopher about this, and we were both getting pretty amped up because it was like the colleges and their grip on the middle class and high schoolers is so intense and so powerful. You know, the lies that are told to high school students about why they need to go to college are so despicable that I decided we're going to do a quick interview. And I just wanted to get his perspective as a 22-year-old who decided to resist that pressure and not go to college and is living a much better life for it with no debt, a great salary, a job he loves. And, you know, he didn't miss out on anything really substantial by not going to college. So I wanted to just kind of talk about this for a second. So thanks for being here, Christopher.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Seth.
So you were telling me the reason I wanted to do this interview is because you were telling me about you went to a job fair with a friend of yours, or a college job fair with a friend of yours. And you were telling me some pretty crazy stuff that the colleges were telling these high school students about the value of a college degree. Can you kind of tell us that story quickly?
Yeah, I can give you that story. So, my friend went to a college fair. I went with him, and the college fair, they were trying to get high school students to come to their college. Obviously, they do their own marketing as well. Don't let you think that, they're not trying to make money off of these kids. And, they're just advertising salaries that are unrealistic for some degrees. Like you're talking about like average salaries of 70,000 for English degrees that they were talking about and stuff like that. And, I'm not saying that there aren't jobs out there like that, but it's extremely unrealistic. And, when you're talking about, a sample size that's that low, you can't just advertise it as an average towards these kids because, what do they know? You know what I mean? If they have no frame or network to find the truth, essentially, that they're going to believe that, spend their $30,000, $40,000 a year for 4 years, go into debt, start behind. And then, once reality sets in afterwards, it's going to be like really tough. And, it's hard to watch that, some of these colleges, they bend the numbers, bend the statistics to their liking, because everybody knows that you can cherry pick data and show things that may not be exactly the truth.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you're saying it. I'm glad you're saying it. That's what kind of the whole point of my book, Skip College for Success, is the fact that the statistics that are used to pressure people into going to college are so wrong statistically, scientifically, just and morally. Like I was talking in the book I talk about how this organization called the National Association of Colleges and Employers, which is, it's kind of like they are the main statistical source for so many news networks about what college graduates are making. And it's as ridiculous and as biased having like BP or Exxon or a big oil company being like the source for information about what is the best energy source on the planet. So like, why would you trust an organization that's job is to get people to go to college to give you salary information? And these guys, it's so funny because it's statistics, right? So it's hard to like get a soundbite together that's really compelling, that gets people like, all upset. But I mean, this is really upsetting. These guys will take they will do a survey of their members, and it's all very mysterious how they do this. And you actually can't even access their data without paying like $300 for these reports. I got my hand on one of the reports on the internet because it wasn't encoded because some university uploaded it. And I saw what these guys do is they will take the salaries of 20 liberal arts majors, 50 English majors, a bunch of philosophy majors, and they're making, first of all, those salaries are still very high compared to the average, but they'll be making like 40,000 a year. Then they'll sample like 3,000 or more engineering majors who are actually making decent salaries, and they'll average this together. And then they will come up with a figure and they will say, yes, the average college graduate makes $50,000 or $60,000 a year. And it's completely misleading. because, you know, the it's not the average. That's what the engineering students are making. And, you know, if for a college to actually tell young people who are 18 years old, don't have any idea about making money or working, and you've just been in school your whole life and you're essentially still a child, basically, that you're going to make $70,000 a year with an English degree is just a lie. It's just a lie. But there's who's holding them accountable? There's nobody holding them accountable. You know, there's no, and the students don't know where to look. They don't know about the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They don't know about pay scale. They don't know how to actually examine this. They've never talked to recent graduates. If you talk to a recent English graduate, they're not making $60,000, $70,000 a year. They're probably trying to get a job in customer service because they don't have any skills. They've just been reading books, you know, reading literature for 4 years. You know, if you spend 4 years in college reading books that you read at high school, that's great. I mean, that's expanding your mind as in terms of, like, you know, your ability to win at trivia night, right? But can you do a job? No. So anyway, I get a little, you know, I still get amped up about this, guys, because I just think it's wrong to lie to a 17 or 18-year-old and like trick them into taking out a $50,000 loan that's going to ruin their financial future. Is that crazy to me? That upsets me? I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
It's not crazy at all because, you know, as an 18-year-old kid, you don't understand the gravity of the decision you're making, right? Because let's say you go to school for 4 years and, you know, it's $20,000 every year, and you take out that loan. That's $80,000 at the end of that 4 years, and you're not even counting in just normal expenses of life and school expenses and stuff like that. And it's no small financial decision. I mean, you know, that kind of money can really set you back. That's like, you know, like a very, very small mortgage almost. And having no way to pay that back at the end, it's the type of stress that it would put on you and stuff like that. It's just absolutely insane. And the fact that it's so easy to get these loans. We were talking about it earlier where, you know, you try to get a small business loan for $5,000 without any credit or history. They're going to tell you to take a hike, but these colleges will give you 6 figures to go to school, and it's absolute insanity. They don't even ask you the major or anything like that or what your plans are. They just, you know, give you the money because at that point, you know, you're trapped. You know, you signed the loan.
The thing that you said that really struck me that I really want you guys to get present to is just the reality of having this kind of debt and the impact it will have on your life. Now, the problem is most of you guys, when you take out these loans, you're 18 or 19, you have been living in a, you know, not in what they call the real world. You have been having all of your expenses paid for by your parents, most of you guys. All right. So they're paying for your food. They're paying for your car. If you have a car, they're paying for your health insurance. They're paying for where you live, your house. When you graduate college, you are now considered an adult, and you are now responsible for paying for your groceries, your food, your electric bill, your apartment or house. All these bills, you have to pay for it. You need to make money. Now, that in and of itself is very shattering to a lot of people, because even if you grew up in a lower or middle class family, you still were a kid. You know, your parents are paying for you. Nobody expects like an 11-year-old to pay for their own rent, right? Or it's it'll be very uncommon. But suddenly, and then at 18, when, you know, traditionally that's when you're considered to be an adult legally, you're not actually taught how to make money and how to pay for your rent and all this stuff. Now they're saying to you, hey, take out this huge loan and go spend 4 years in this little summer camp experience where you're kind of in a dormitory with other young people getting drunk every weekend and learning about, you know, reading Shakespeare, learning about astronomy for 4 years. So you've gone off into this weird bender for 4 years where you're not responsible for any bills. Now you're 22, you graduate college, it hits you like you will not believe, guys. You're going to be so stressed. You're going to be so depressed. You're going to be so out of your mind with, how do I pay for my life now? How do I pay for my apartment? And a lot of people, they can't, so they move back home. And it's, you know, and if your parents aren't helping you, you don't have parents that can help you, you are a really bad situation, because in addition to having to pay for your rent and your car, your transportation, your food, your health insurance, which, by the way, whatever health insurance you had in college starts to go away too as you get into your 20s. Now, you also have to pay these student loan payments. And you don't even know about these payments when you sign up for the loan. They just give you the money. And then, I had a 17-year-old one ask me, she's like, yeah, my parents want me to go to college and take out $100,000 in loans. And I thought, what kind of parents are these? These parents are insane. They want her to spend $100,000 on a marketing degree with no idea about the fact that this degree is not going to help her get a job. And then I said to her, I said, listen, you're going to spend $1,000 a month on this loan for the next 20 or 30 years of your life. And she was shocked. She said, nobody ever told me how much I'm gonna have to pay every month for these loans. Nobody ever talked to her about it. She's 17. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I'm a random guy on the internet. Your mom didn't do it. Your dad didn't do it. Your aunts and uncles and your teachers aren't being responsible and caring enough, like an adult or a parent should, to help you understand your adult responsibilities. I'm going to do that. And, it drives me a little crazy because that's what I do a lot of the times. I have to help these young people understand that the advice they're getting from their parents and their teachers in these colleges is absolutely going to ruin their life. So anyway, Christopher, as I said, I kind of went off on a little tirade there. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are just, a lot of the reason these parents are, like reiterating this advice is because it's quite outdated advice, right? Just like a lot of things in the United States, a lot of things have risen in cost exponentially in just the past 10 to 20 years, while salaries have, stayed, roughly, the same and have gone up very slowly on average. And, back in, like the 80s, 70s, 80s, it was definitely possible to go through school and work part-time and pay everything off as you're going through it. But that's not the case anymore. I mean, you're talking about, some schools nowadays, that are like Ivy League or, private institutions, which essentially those private institutions are practically businesses at that point that are for profit. And at that point, you're paying like 70 grand a year to go to like some of these like private colleges or Ivy League schools and stuff like that. And, that's more than you'll probably make when you get out your first year. It's absolutely insane to really think about. It's a lot of money. That's all I can say. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. And what you're speaking to is the fact that I like how you guys, I get kind of amped up about this because I've been talking about it for a long time. But Christopher, even though he's only 22, has a very even-keeled and intelligent take on all of this. But what you're speaking to is that, you were talking about a belief system. This is what's really difficult, is that I have talked to so many parents about college and students. And the problem is that the statistics and the facts, they kind of bounce off people's heads. They don't really take it in or listen to it. The simple fact, you say, look, I'm investing X number of dollars in this product. What's my return on investment? Am I going to make my money back? I'm going to make more money. And people will not look at the statistics. And also, as we said earlier, the statistics are actually like very, very misleading. But even so, when you can look at the New York Fed website and see that, hey, English majors are making, $30-something thousand a year. And, they're very underemployed as well, meaning that they're working at jobs that never required a degree. So logically, you'd say, well, this doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I pay all this money to end up getting a customer service job or a sales job that I could have gotten without the degree? But there is a cultural belief in college, in the value of an education, as people call it. Like, it's the only way to get an education. And a lot of it's classism. People traditionally it was like, oh, you went to college, you're kind of in this upper class kind of person. In minority communities now, it's a big deal. Like, I'm going to be the first person in my family to go to college. And when people are approaching a purchase with all of these emotional and social influences, it's very difficult to make a logical choice. And the last thing, what you said, Christopher, is that, a lot of parents are projecting their own experience onto their kids without even looking at the price or understanding the price. So it's like, like my dad, and I'm older than you. I could be your father. I'm like in my 40s, but I'm like, my dad is in his 70s, right? So he went to school in the 70s, and he was telling me, like, he went to Stanford and it was like $5,000 a year for tuition or something like that. Maybe eight. I think it was more like 5,000 a year at the time, which adjusted for inflation is still like, I don't know. It's not what it is today. And basically, I may be wrong. It may have been 5,000 for the whole 4 years. I can't even remember. But what I remember distinctively is that back in the 70s, 80s, maybe even through the 90s, it was possible to get like a part-time job and work to pay off your college tuition. And this is before you were talking about spending $50,000, $60,000 a year. There's no, you can't, nobody can do that. Even if you have a full-time job making $100,000 a year after taxes, you're basically just going to be spending all your money on the tuition. You're not going to have any money to live on. So it's an absurd situation. And in an absurd situation, unfortunately, means the majority, and also there's this cultural pressure, meaning that you have agreement amongst, influential people like parents and teachers, and they're all giving young people very bad advice. So people like me and Christopher, who are giving good advice, sensible advice, we're kind of, we're still pushing against that pressure. What do you think about that, Christopher?
The pressure is definitely crazy. And with this pressure, a lot of kids feel like they have to go and that their parents are never going to listen. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I went to school for a year, and you have to, I guess, like, wake them up essentially. I told my mom and my dad, I was just like, I can't do this. I was like, there's just no point. I was like, I don't feel like I'm getting anything done. Like, I'm not making any money. I'm just kind of sitting here going to these classes that I don't even know what I'm exactly here for. I'm just kind of here going with the flow and, just to get my degree. And, nobody ever really talks about the amount of time you have to put in for one of these degrees, because, 4 years is a long time when you're 18 years old. That's a small portion of your life at that point, at the age you're at. And, there's so many other things you could be doing. I'm at 22 years old working in digital marketing. And if I was just getting out of college now, I'd be, 2-3 years behind where I would be if I, went to school. I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And, there's so much you can do in 4 years. A lot of people underestimate what they can do in like 4 to 5 years. And, once you get that head start on people, when people are taking out debt and stuff like that to get these, like English major degrees and stuff like that, they're going to come out, 50, 60 grand in like the red. And, if you pick like a marketable skill, self-taught, get into some avenue where you can make decent money, 60, 70,000, even if it's 50,000. And you just bundle down and save your money. If you can live at home and save your money, or you can live in a low cost of living area and work remote and save money, you're going to be so far ahead. If you just calculate the compound interest over time, if you're investing that early and you just hold your earnings that long, I mean, it's just like, it's not even the money at that point. The time is money, if that makes sense. Like, what do you think about that, Seth?
Yeah, man. I mean, you're nailing it. I mean, we call it opportunity costs. Okay, so this thing, another thing people don't talk about, which is those 4 years of your life. Again, what I said in another interview is that not only 4 years of your life, but 4 years of your life when you have the most energy. You're never going to have quite as much energy as you will at 18. When you see people are like and a lot of that, the other thing that's kind of sad about college that people has become part of the college experience. A lot of people drink like crazy in college. And I'm not here to make a moral judgment, but I'm just like, dude, like the amount of energy it takes to party every weekend. And that's part of the college experience. That's part of what you're paying all this money for. It's kind of crazy that people think that that's like something they're entitled to, or is a good thing to like have this, summer camp experience where you're drinking all the time. But you can recover when you're 18. Like you can drink like, 3 nights a week or more. But what's a better idea is to take that energy and put it into learning a marketable skill, like you're doing, Christopher. The 4 years of life that you're wasting. This other thing is most people are not really engaged with their classwork because the college system is so outdated, guys. I mean, there's so much data on this. There's so many articles always like college is failing people. And it's not just in terms of like a lot of people will dismiss this argument because they'll say, oh, you're just thinking about money. Like, well, yeah, I am when it's this expensive. But even in terms of getting an education, by every metric that academia has to even measure itself, college is failing. Students, their grade point averages are dropping. The retention levels are down. People just are not engaged. And it's because I think in a lot of ways, college is so outdated. Everything about how we consume information has changed in the last 20 years, but college is exactly the same as it was 1,000 years, literally 1,000 years ago. The college lecture was invented in the year like 1100 AD or something like that. And so students, they're wasting their time, and a lot of them said they're just there to get the degree. They don't even know exactly what they're going to major in, why they're majoring in it, what classes they're taking. You're in this bizarre system of class registration where, you may not get the class you want. This is another thing. I mean, there's so many fucking things. It's like, if you're an adult and you want to learn coding, right? Or a skill, you go to a seminar, you take an online workshop, you take a boot camp, you take a course online, you get the thing you paid for. College, it's so crazy, is that someone will pay $50,000 in tuition, and then there's this rush of registration for classes. That's like, it's like the Oklahoma land rush from the 1800s. Like, well, I really wanted to get this class with this professor, but it's full. And so are my other top 4 classes. So I'm going to take this class I don't really want to take. Like, can you think of any other industry where people pay this much money and they don't actually get the product they paid for? It's insane. But it's what people are told to do. So it really does take real critical thinking and real guts to start questioning this, like you did, Christopher. I think it's really great that you dropped out and told your parents, like, I'm not doing this, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and to piggyback off what you said earlier, even people that want to defend college classes and stuff like that, we haven't even gotten into the point that, you may be paying $200 per credit. And, when I was in school, there's a bunch of, BS classes that, like, don't actually, pertain to anything that you're trying to do. I was a computer science major, but, I was forced to take philosophy and, some other courses that don't teach marketable skills. They just take up your time for 1 to 2 hours a day, like 3 days a week for an entire semester. And, it's not like something optional. Like, if you like philosophy and you want to take that, that's different. But when you're forced to take these classes that don't even actually pertain to your degree when you are in a good degree, I mean, that's just like an easy like money printer for these colleges, and nobody ever questions that the curriculum is purposely stuffed so that kids pay more money. And it's not something I see people talk about often, because there's just like a lot of classes that are on the requirement sheet, and it's just like, why is it even there? Who's voting on this? Who's making decisions that we need to take this class? Like, why would I need to learn how to weave baskets for coding?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, man. And this, again, you're right, nobody questioned it. But here's what happens. And this, I can predict the comments on this video, because people will say, well, it's to make you well-rounded. Now, this actually, what you're speaking about, speaks to how outdated college is. So in the 60s, or the 50s and the 60s, was like the golden age of college, was when it was starting to become, colleges actually were a valuable contribution to society, because there was no internet, there's no way to connect with people from across the world, and they were reasonably priced. So you'd actually, if you wanted to meet like young, intellectually open-minded at the time, college campuses were actually a place where people were questioning things, and actually there was a open discussion of new ideas, not like how it is today. But the colleges were actually a place where there was this intellectual discourse that you couldn't get anywhere else. At the time, this is in the 60s in America, or the 70s, this is still a very, very different time. And during that time, there was a philosophy, the education, the people who put together these curriculums, they had this idea. And the idea was that they wanted people to be studying all these different topics: history, English, astronomy, philosophy. And the idea was, like, theoretically, that this is going to help expand a person's life, expand their personality, make them a, quote, well-rounded person, which I think is bullshit. And it's funny, because actually I'm a big fan of Steve Martin, the comedian, and he went to school in the 60s, and he took philosophy classes, and his philosophy class influenced his comedy. And he worked his ass off for 10 years and then became a big superstar comic. And he credits some of his philosophy classes with his influencing how he thinks about the world. And I think about that, and I think, yeah, well, again, he was paying like $10 a class for philosophy. He wasn't going into debt to do it. And there was no internet, no place he could have gotten an online course on philosophy. So the fundamental reason for these, humanities requirements in a lot of these majors, it's very outdated. It's just a way of thinking that was from like 40 or 50 years ago in terms of how these curriculums were set up. And it doesn't make any sense today. It really doesn't, like you pointed out. And I also think that I would argue with anybody who would comment on this, say, oh, you need to learn English and philosophy. I said, dude, you just spent 12 years in high school and like compulsory education. I was like, what happens in college is like, what happened with me was, I remember I reread all the books that I'd read in high school because I had to take these damn English classes, right? And I'm like, what was the point of reading the books in high school if I'm going to read them again in college? And plus, these books are available for like $5, or at the time, $5. Now it's like $20 or whatever at the bookstore. Why am I reading these books? The literature. Why am I reading this? Why am I taking a class on sound and music and physics, which I did in college? That was much worse than any of the physics class I took in high school. And this idea that these classes make you a more well-rounded person is also bullshit, because I say you take a douchebag from high school and you make him take an English class and a philosophy class, he's still a douchebag. This is not how you fundamentally alter your worldview. You need to do a seminar. You need to travel. Actually, traveling, I think, if you had somebody travel and actually experience other cultures, get out of the United States for about 6 months or a year and actually get into the world and engage with life for a year, that person is going to be a lot more well-rounded than somebody who took a philosophy class. So you're right. It is a way to get more money out of people. It doesn't make any sense. It certainly shouldn't be required for like a computer science degree. And we should be encouraging people to have these experiences, the things that college is supposed to provide, which is like being well-rounded and, encouraging critical thinking. It's not done in these classrooms. It should be done by getting out there and experiencing life. What do you think about that, Christopher? Because I'm in my rant mode.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, man. Life experience is going to teach you a lot more. It's like, when you first get a job, you could, if you're a surgeon, you can read all day about how to do a surgery on somebody, but you're not really going to know until you take up that scalpel and start working on them.
But listen, man, Christopher, it was great chatting with you. Let's do this again. I mean, I think maybe we could do this more often because, I guess, as we've spoken, I've realized something, which is that, I've been talking about this for about 10 years, right? And I've helped a lot of people skip college. And I think I'm starting to accept the fact that like the majority of the population is still it's going to be a very slow transition. People, it just takes, people are just wired that way to move slowly in terms of these, some of these changes. And so, but what it does inspire me is the fact that, you did skip college, you found my course, and now you're on a much better life path than you would have been. And, maybe we'll reach and impact a few people who are smart enough and self-possessed enough to start questioning what they're being taught by their, teachers and parents and all that other stuff, and do what's best for them.
Yeah, I think it's, definitely, it may start small, but I mean, if you could start a domino effect, whether it's you, me, Shane Hummus, it could be anyone, Joshua Fluke, once all it takes is one person to get a, national level, notoriety or, like recognition to where, it may come as like a knee-jerk reaction to a lot of people, but like just getting people to even like think about what they're doing, because like you said, like a lot of people aren't really thinking about what they're doing. But once you get them to question it once, they may be in the shower and they're just like, that thing Seth Himes said, I think he's right, like shower thoughts kind of stuff,
Right.
but it's definitely gonna be a slow process, but I think it'll speed up exponentially.
I think what you said, that's very interesting the way you said it, which is just think about it. I remember this guy, Marty Nemko, who I really like. He's a career counselor who also was very critical of college. And he was on the Daily Show once, like years ago. And he was really sharp. And they said, like, what was your advice for high schoolers thinking about college? And he said, think 3 times. And I thought, that's perfect. That's perfect. Think of like actually, if people actually thought about it and actually did the research, listened to the statistics, made a well-reasoned decision that wasn't based on emotion or pressure, a lot of them would, I think a lot of people would start to question it. But my real interest is in like, I think we're gonna have the most impact with the people who are already questioning it, but still feel very alone. And I think actually, if we do another conversation that I may just post this one just for the hell of it, and then we do another one that's a little more thought out. I may want to have the intention be, yeah, we're really here to help the people who are feeling alone in their
Yeah.
question. So you
And
understand on the right.
yeah, and I agree with you, because it's, you got to start with the people that are already questioning it. It's kind of like the Matrix. You don't know you're in the Matrix until you start questioning things, and like you meet other like-minded people. But like somebody that's not going to listen to statistics and stuff like that, and it's just not worth it. Like trying to like drill into diamonds essentially to get a crack.
That's why, even as I was watching myself go on these rants, I was like, that's kind of why I stopped, because it's basically, it's a question. Are you interested in understanding the situation from a factual, statistically based, practical perspective? Or do you just believe that everybody should go to college and that you believe that you should go to college? And if people are like, I just believe people should go to college, which is really the truth, then I would just wish them the best.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man.
But yeah, like just let me know. I mean, we can do something that's a little bit more thought out, so we're not just preaching to the ceiling.
Yeah. And heck, I may just post this, man. I mean,
yeah, no, like go ahead.
found-
I mean, like, even though like a lot of the information to some people that are already questioning it may sound repetitive, hearing it 2-3 times will really get it into you. It's like you're not going to learn how to do something by just doing it once. That's so
it takes a lot of repetition, and but it is, it is inspiring to think of, I guess I tend to focus sometimes, like it is really maddening in a way when you see all these people behaving in an unintelligent way, but it's also inspiring when I see people like you and other people I've helped. I don't tell people, like, the thing I like to say is, it's like there's no damage you can do by skipping college. None. There's nothing, because here's the thing. Let's say you want to go. Let's say you realize, hey, I need a college degree. You can always go back. They'll give you a loan.
It's gonna be there. Yeah, they're gonna be there.
You can't get a refund.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
But
well, anyway, man, it was great chatting with you. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah, keep in touch, man. Let me know how that island life is going.
Oh, for sure, man. It's great. You guys, if you have any questions, if we did post this and you are watching this, feel free to comment, leave any questions below, or you can even reach out to Christopher if you have any thoughts below. Let us know what you think of the video. Do you like this kind of random back and forth ramble or not? All right, guys, thanks.